And members of Congress come home to try to explain why Washington still can't do what needs to be done. There was no last-minute deal to prevent $85 billion in automatic federal spending cuts from taking effect today.
The across-the-board cuts will affect dozens of federal agencies and departments. Congressional leaders met with President Obama but left the White House with no agreement and not much hope. Obama warns the economy will soon feel the impact. Hundreds of thousands of government workers have already been told they'll face furloughs. And the administration has forecast everything from fewer teachers in the classroom to longer lines at the airport. The president blames Republicans. House Speaker John Boehner says the GOP absolutely will not go for more tax increases as Democrats want.
Discussion about revenue, in my view, is over. It's about taking on the spending problem here in Washington.
They've allowed these cuts to happen because they refuse to budge on closing a single wasteful loophole.
There's still time to head off the biggest impact of the cuts, but there's no sign yet that either side is willing to budge.
New Mexico, with its heavy dependence on federal spending, is in line for an especially hard hit. Two members of the state's congressional delegation were back home today facing constituents. News 13's Kayla Ayers is in the Newsplex with that. Kayla?
Dick, despite the last-minute meeting at the White House, many members of Congress were not in Washington, even if there had been a deal. We were with Representatives Michelle Lujan Grisham and Steve Pierce as they tried to explain the mess.
Republican Representative Steve Pierce took to the airwaves this morning, fielding questions about impending federal budget cuts on talk radio.
Well, I understand we're just cutting 2.5% of growth of what the budget they're getting.
In normal times, you're correct, but in this instance, the cuts are real.
Pierce says some cuts to federal spending do need to be made, but that automatic cuts to national security are not the solution for New Mexico.
I think people are asking why the cuts are going forward more than which cuts. Everybody understands that it's time to stop the wasteful Washington ways. They want Washington to live with the same requirements we have.
Democratic Representative Michelle Lujan Grisham made the rounds in Estancia, meeting with key groups and organizations that will feel the effects of these cuts.
When you look at the rural communities, and they already are fighting harder than anybody else to have fair economic development investments and to deal with poverty issues, they get hit really hard in an issue like the sequester.
Lujan Grisham says she's meeting with people trying to figure out how to mitigate cuts to health care, seniors, and early education.
I'm very disheartened and very disappointed about what's happened in Congress.
Both Lujan Grisham and Pierce said a resolution needs to be made, and both likened it to families tightening purse strings to make ends meet.
Lujan Grisham and Pierce both say they'll be back in Washington before the weekend is over. Pierce told KRQE Speaker of the House John Boehner sent congressional members home. Back to you.
Okay, Kayla, Representative Pierce does have another town hall meeting set for tomorrow morning in Los Lunas.